Welcome to the Zero Trust Journey podcast, created by cybersecurity practitioners for those walking the same path. We share real stories, hard lessons, and hard-won victories from the field, so you can sidestep the pitfalls and deliver the wins. Grab your coffee, tune out the buzzwords, and let's get into the real story right here on the Zero Trust Journey podcast.
Welcome to ZT Journey, Zero Trust Journey podcast. My name is Victor Monga. I am your host and producer of the show today. I want to talk about Zero Trust from an angle of wireless. A lot of time when we architect Zero Trust, we always talk about network, endpoint, cloud, data, identity, you name it. But there is one aspect of network which is wireless. Within wireless, it's not just what we are used to of connecting our laptop or our smartphones. There is a lot more to it. So for that, I am not the smartest person. I am actually bringing my guest, Brett, who has spent a decent amount of time in this world and do a lot of research and obviously advise his customers and clients on how to architect your wireless network when it comes to Zero Trust principles. Brett, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Victor. It's good to be here.
So let me jump right into it. If I were to detect what are the different protocols, wireless protocols in my company, at my organization, how would I go about starting to search that?
So that's a great question. And first of all, I think you've already hinted at part of the answer, but I want to frame this properly. Wireless, when people think of wireless, they often just think of Wi-Fi. And that's fine for most purposes, but wireless is much bigger than that. Wireless includes Wi-Fi, but it also includes cellular, Bluetooth, Zigbee, and a whole host of other protocols that you might not realize are in your facility, but play an important part. And some of that may be corporate or government owned, and some of it may be personal owned that just comes in and out of those spaces. So the risk I think associated with those is that we don't even realize that they're there. And so bringing visibility, as you asked, is, I think, the first necessary step. And the way we go about that is we implement a detection scheme using software-defined radios.
Okay.
These are radios that have the flexibility to maneuver throughout the spectrum and modify their behavior through software updates. This is not a new concept. It's been around for some time. But if you implement that, then you have flexibility to go and look at whatever part of the spectrum you need in order to understand what's happening there, demodulating and decoding header information that allows you to characterize the devices that are on the air, understanding their capabilities, their connectivity, maybe their form factor. So the first step is just knowing what you have, right?
Does IoT discovery would fall under this category because they are emitting some sort of signal to either call home or connect to their base within the organization? Would IoT discovery be considered within this search parameter?
Yeah, absolutely. IoT, I think of as a use case more than a technology. Cellular and Wi-Fi can support IoT functions as well as Bluetooth and Zigbee and other types of 802.15.4 type of protocols. So yes, absolutely, it fits under this.
So let me ask you this. When we are discovering my different protocols wirelessly in my organization enterprise, that's a static process. I discovered it today and I'm starting to architect. Well, something can change. Either some other device has been introduced or a device has been removed or a protocol has been changed. How do I constantly discover? And based on that, how do I adjust my policies so that it's not like only once a year or twice a year, Victor goes in, scans the entire building. Now I know what's what. What happens between Victor has scanned and the next time Victor is going to scan?
That's a great question, Victor. So there's a whole industry out there that does this kind of thing for detecting audio and video bugs. It's called TSCM, Technical Surveillance Countermeasures. And these people are equipped with all this technology and they'll go into a facility and they'll sweep for bugs. But this is a point in time kind of sweep. And these guys are in demand and they're expensive. And so you can only do that every once in a while. What happens between those times? You could do the same thing with this SDR concept that I've described, where that just serves an audit function. That's not what we recommend at all. We recommend you deploy systems to do continuous monitoring, much like we do packet inspection on the wire
Right.
all the time, right? You don't want to just do packet inspection once a year. You want to know what's happening all the time. The same thing with wireless. Zero trust is not occasional visibility. It's continuous awareness of what's there. So the first step is asset identification, but then it's continuous monitoring. So you can understand what comes and goes, patterns of life, and then you have baselines from which to operate and identify aberrations that could be a flag for someone to investigate and adjudicate.
So usually wireless networks are part of networking team, which is IT team. And nothing against my friends in IT, but security is not at the forefront of that conversation. Usually it's as long as I can provide the connectivity,
Yes.
my job of IT/networking is done.
Yes.
What's the incentive for them to actually consider this proactive approach, adding the security layers, making sure that it actually enforces the policies that you enforce over the wire? Or it could be as simple as that I want to maintain the discovery of different protocols around my enterprise. What is there for me as long as I provide the connectivity? I'm off the hook.
I guess that depends on your job function. Maybe I would agree with that, except that whatever the incentive is for you to provide cybersecurity tools on the wire, the same incentive exists in the wireless domain too. The risks are the same. There are many, many vulnerabilities that have been published that are out there and widely available. The weird thing is, in some of those cases, it's difficult to patch in some devices, not all, but particularly Zigbee and Bluetooth often are low cost devices that are single flash types of hardware. And you can't even update them unless you just wholesale replace them. So vulnerabilities sometimes get baked in a way that you can't really address. So I would say the risk factor is the incentive. With CVEs that have been growing in the wireless domain, we published a report a few months ago about the growth in CVEs. Wireless related CVEs have been growing 20 times faster than overall CVE rates over the last 15 years. So that points to, I think it points to a couple of things. One is that the complexity of the specifications that support these growing use cases in the wireless domain contribute to the growth of vulnerabilities associated with not only specification-based vulnerabilities, but implementation-based. As things get more complicated, of necessity, we're creating more vulnerabilities without meaning to. So that growth is problematic. But then I think there's another trend where historically, IT folks and security folks maybe haven't completely understood the mechanisms of wireless transmission well enough to really appreciate the risks associated with the wireless domain. So there are probably very good reasons why we haven't, as an ecosystem, focused on them. As researchers become more and more aware of what they can discover in that domain, they're latching on more and more. And so they're discovering more just because of the momentum of the awareness growing within the threat research community. So I think there's multiple reasons for what we're seeing there. And again, the incentive, I believe, is risk profile. When you really understand the risk, you're going to want to do something to mitigate it.
Fair. And recently we did a quick survey and hence this podcast today, where when you talk about wireless protocols in your enterprise, it's not at the forefront of the conversation of architecture and all that, but it can be the weak link in your entire architecture because it could be just one device that has access to update server, that has access to your domain, that has access to your management network, that has access to, you just open it up. And a lot of the red teaming, penetration testing, maybe that's not in the scope because those are IoT devices. Those are maybe devices that are really critical to your business. So you tend not to do red team or penetration testing. So you kind of exclude them from the scope. So it's a repeatedly behavior of this vicious cycle that I am not going to touch these wireless devices because they are critical to my business, but I'm also losing the visibility, what's going on there.
Yes.
So a quick survey that we did recently, it showed about 62% people said that they just don't know what's going on in their wireless environment, let alone knowing all the protocols that goes around it.
So I think that feeds into our lack of awareness of where this actually plays a role in the real world because we're not paying attention. But there have been stories of things that have come out in the news. One that comes to mind is a drone-based attack on a Wi-Fi network where they were successful in penetrating the network with an evil twin attack. But the defenders didn't really understand what was happening until much later, and it took them a while. They finally stumbled on these drones that had landed on the roof of their facility and were able to recover the hardware, and they publicized that. So that's good. We know about that. Another example was an APT that was allegedly involved in a penetration of a network where they were able to penetrate nearby networks, so neighboring organizations of their main target,
Right.
and then pivot to wireless devices to join the Wi-Fi network of their main target. The Wi-Fi was a little less secure than the public-facing services on the wire, so
Sure. Yeah.
that's how they got in. There's lots and lots of stories like this where once you realize that could happen to me, it should make you pay a little more attention to that, right? So we just have to bring visibility to it. We haven't historically.
And that's what it is, right? It's just wireless networks protocols is not like sexy. It's not the best conversations, but it is part of your network. It is part of your, whatever the architecture you're building. And it must be considered equally important when you're building your defenses. So let's wrap with this one, Brett. AI. I can't have a podcast and not talk about AI. How is AI, especially LLM, policy writing, the traditional way of authentication, any of that changing, any of that improving, any of that making human life better from wireless protocol perspective, because now we have AI? Have you seen any use cases, real world applications?
You're asking whether AI has made a difference in our defense of wireless?
Yeah.
I would say only from the perspective of folks like my company that do this kind of thing, possibly using AI to improve their analytics capabilities. Right now, people aren't paying enough attention to wireless in general
Sure.
to be incorporating this into their defense posture. But I will say that we're seeing some indicators that AI is being used. I can't say specific to wireless, but I believe it's general, that it's being used to tighten the feedback loop, right? So they can adapt and attack more efficiently. We're seeing that in some of our customers' facilities. In particular, AI data centers are being attacked by their own tools. So that's a little disturbing.
Yeah.
But
one of the articles I read on Reddit, it was about wireless, AI using wireless to actually kick the rogue networks out from the enterprises so that we keep it clean, because now it's autonomous. It can read, it can understand. This is my network, authenticated. That's what's created by the management plane, and rest everything, which looks similar. Maybe it's not exactly the same words, but they are lookalike. I'm going to kick them out. So have you seen that kind of use cases as well in real life?
I haven't seen that, no, but I love that story. I'll have to steal that one from you. Thanks.
Yeah, Reddit. Okay, let's start with this one, Brett. If you were to give one advice to someone who's architecting zero trust and wireless should be part of that defense strategy, what would be one thing that you would say that make sure you do this one thing?
To be honest, I want people to just get smarter about it. So what I would suggest is if you have a team that operates your security infrastructure, like get one person to dig into the wireless a little more. If they already understand Wi-Fi, get them to broaden their horizons a little bit. If you don't have anybody, just at least get them to understand the Wi-Fi.
Right.
I just think we need more people educated about how this is different and the real risks that are associated.
Brett, thanks so much for being on ztjourney.com, and all the listeners. Until next time, thanks so much.
Thanks, Victor. Appreciate it.
That's a wrap on this Zero Trust journey. Now it's your turn. Step into the spotlight, share your story, and be part of the journey. Subscribe to Zero Trust Journey on LinkedIn for the latest news, events, and giveaways. Until next time.